Let's take a trip back to the 90s. Spice Girls, no internet, no mobile phones. Wasn't life a little bit simpler then? I'm Gabby and welcome back to another edition of the Fragrantician, where here on this channel we talk about nothing but fragrances. So if fragrance is your jam, then keep watching. So in today's edition, let's get comfortable with all our drinks and our tea and everything, because today we are talking about 90s fragrances. Were you a child of the 70s or 80s and you remember the 90s? Then stick with me, because I've got some babies here, some true gems. So let's start chronologically. We have Cabotine de Gres, and this I managed to procure a little 30ml vintage, and this came out in 1990. Yes, it's 31 years old, and that's how old it is. Now, I have ordered a couple of refillable travel atomizers to decant into with some funnels and everything, because I can't deal with dabbers. Because we did this, didn't we? We got this and then we just dabbed it on, didn't we? How did we do that? How did we do that? I just don't know. This is pure vintage 90s. This is green florals. This is greenness, but it's white florals, a little bit of purple florals, for some fruits in there, black currant. It's lovely, it's heavenly. I'm glad I got it, and it does project, and it does have a fantastic sillage. Only earlier today, when my husband came in from work, he said to me, "Gabby, you smell really lovely." And I'd only literally done what I just did there about an hour previous. Yes, he could smell it on me. It's a strong fragrance. So this you use with a light hand, but let's face it, this was pre-reformulation. The next one we are talking about is the OG Angel from 1992. Candy floss, haunted playgrounds and haunted fairgrounds. This is what this reminds me of. This brings back memories of the 90s, come flooding back. Wow, it is. This is the original formula from the 90s I have here, and I love it. You know me. I know I've talked about it a lot, and I'll keep on talking about it, because it's what I do. Angel, do you remember it? Did you love it? Did you loathe it? If you like Gourmand Overload, and it was one of a kind back then in 92 when it came out, nearly 30 years old. Will they have a 30th celebration? Who knows? The thing is, Mugler has changed as a brand, particularly in the last 5-6 years. So who knows? It's the Angels of today, the Muglers of today, are nothing compared to the big guns in the 90s and the early 2000s. So OG Angel, berries, fruits, patchouli, but sweetened with the candy floss and the caramel. Beautiful. And as a side note, sillage and projection for days and miles, longevity for hours and days and weeks and months and years and decades and centuries. Now the next two I'm going to talk about came out in 1994. The first one is Eden by Cacharel. Now some would say this is springtime in a bottle. I say no. I say cold weather days, rainy days, This is something else. This is nuclear. This is an original formula I have. Well, this formula is from 1998, so it is a first formula from the 90s, and wow, that's strong. That is strong. It's mimosa, it's all the florals you can think of, all the aquatic florals, all the fruits you can think of, all mélanged, all mixed in together. And you've got Eden. Bombastic, fantastic. Hate the bottle, love the juice. The next one I'm talking about is Tendre Poison, and I have a 5ml here, and I'll tell you the backstory for this. I did my poison review line of all of my poisons from Dior, which is hands down my favourite line from Dior, and this is the one that I didn't have. And fortunately, Foxglove Follows, Kirsten from up north here in the UK, sent me a 5ml, and look at this. I kind of went to town with it a little bit. Look at how beautiful that is. I kind of did go to town on it, actually. This projects and lasts and lasts and lasts. So beautiful, and I am so grateful to have a little dinky 5ml, and I'm going to keep the little bottle once it's empty. Oh, it's just all the juice in this, the white florals you can think of mixed together. And think of the original poison without that myrrh and without the berries, and you've got Tendre Poison. It's minus that, but I don't know, it's got some spiciness. I don't know the notes, but these spicy florals in here, I don't think it's carnation. I don't know what it is. Somebody can tell me, let me know. But there's something about this fragrance that is quite alluring and intoxicating. My husband loved it, and so much so that I now have, yeah, you wait for it, a sealed 50ml, not touched, brand new, first 90s formula coming my way. Well, it's already here, but I haven't opened it. It's for Christmas. And the dusting powder I managed to get my hands on. 94 it came out. Why they discontinued it? Shame on you, Dior. I will do a big full review on this, but I had to include Tendre Poison. Love you. Now we have to go with Hypnotic Poison from Dior. Again, the 90s was something. Now this isn't an original OG formula. I've had this about 8 or 10 years. So it's a reformulated version. Vanilla and almond, bitter almond. It has a bitterness to it, but it has a sweetness to it. Doesn't really last as long as it used to, and doesn't really project as long as it used to. So the performance isn't great, unlike the OG Poison I have and the Tendre Poison. They are off the scale. This isn't as much. This is toned down fragrance, and this came out in 1998. And I will only wear it really in autumn and winter. But let's face it, this, for me, this is memories of the 90s. This is those late 90s when I was clubbing heavily, partying heavily, and just acting the whore. You know, I was just doing that. I was acting. Well, I wasn't acting. It was all for real. Anyway, back to this fragrance. It is something about it that has a sweetness, but it's not overtly vanilla. It's more of the almond that's in there, and caraway, slightly bitter. Not everybody can pull this off. Some think it's jarring. I don't. I love it. I don't really love it, but I love it. Hypnotic Poison. The last two that I'll talk about, the first one being DKNY, came out in 1999. This is Freshness Overload. This is lemon I think it's lemon, and it's slightly green, from leafy green. That's how I describe it. And basically that's all I really smell. Richard loves it on me. You know, I've spoken about this a lot. It's a fragrance he just adores. He finds it sexy. A fresh fragrance that's sexy. For him, he just loves it. So, yeah, 1999. What a year that was. That was the year I met Richard. So this has memories. Hello, Littly. She's in the background there. So, yeah, DKNY. Did you ever wear this? Would you wear it again? For me, this is just spring and summer. Summer overload, this is. Summer of 99. Memories. Lastly, we have our lovely Noa by Cacharel. Because Cacharel, we were all wearing it in the 90s. Not many people wear Cacharel nowadays. Why not? It's that lovely slight coffee, musk, beautiful musk, peony, those florals in there, angelic, slightly woody, a floral woody musk. Those classic fragrances that came out in the late 90s. Those freshies that came out in the late 90s. But this packs a punch. This is an OG formula from 99. And I absolutely love it. Actually, it might have came out in 1998. So I do apologise. Should have worked chronologically. But I wore this a lot in 99. It has a slight sexiness about it. The musk is slightly sexy, but those florals are beautiful, and it's beautifully angelic, and it had to be in my 90s fragrances because it just held, and it still holds a lovely memory, and I love it. Did you wear it back then? Let's revive it. Let's revive the 90s. Let's turn back the clock. So those were my 90s fragrances. The big guns, in my opinion. Just a selection, just a few of some that we wore to death in the 90s. And I still wear to death now because you know I love the 90s. It's one of the most well-beloved decades. Bittersweet for me in some, but in others, it was just a beautiful era. You've been watching another edition of the Fragrantician. Until next time, be bold, be audacious, overspray, slay, and entertain. Till the next video.